safely assume you're among friends.
Oh, stop it.
No, stop it. I mean, you've never met until tonight, except that
I know,
they both spent 6 months with your girlfriend, Cameron.
They
Diaz.
did.
Yeah.
They did. I'm very jealous.
Are you?
Yeah.
You should be.
Tell us about the album. It's a strange title.
It's the greatest album ever released by anyone.
Well, it's
in the history of the world.
#1 the world over.
It was, this album was a bit of a challenge for me. I mean, it may sound cliche to sort of say this, but it was my sophomore record, and with the first record, I just didn't expect the sort of success that it had, and so to do this record properly, I felt like I needed to take time away because I toured off of the first record for literally almost 20 months. So, you know, I think if I heard one of my songs from that record one more time, my head was gonna explode. And I think I just needed to check out for a second and listen to what was going on musically and become a fan, so to speak, again, and just become inspired again.
So what decided you into the kind of music? I mean, you said you're going to put the sex back into pop music. My question is, when did it leave?
Well, there's a specific date and time.
Is it?
No. To be honest, the line from that track, from that song was... the way that I write, I don't write anything down. I sort of have this rule that if I can't remember the melody or the lyrics, then it wasn't worth remembering. So I kind of test myself and don't write things down when I'm in the studio. And that line was it was completely improv, and originally I didn't think that was actually going to be the name of the song. And it's become this weird stigma that follows me everywhere. Literally, people on the street are like, hey, bringing sexy back. It's just a weird thing.
It's not it's not bedroom music then?
Well, you know, different strokes for different folks.
Well, this is my point. I mean, say you and Cameron together, I mean, what kind of music sets you up? Honestly, I'm a Sinatra man myself, okay? I'm a bit of Nat King Cole, all right?
I can see that.
And a bit of Oscar Peterson, maybe?
I can see that. I think being a musician, it's kind of that's a little hard to mix those two. I'll pick out the chords and become distracted. As hard as that is to believe.
You play the back, you mean, with the chords?
No, not literally. I don't mean literally. Let's move on.
What's amazing about you is you're 25 years old. That's all you are. I mean, you've been in the business now for a lifetime, it seems, and you've reinvented.
Yes, by standards today, yeah, a lifetime.
But when you started the Mickey Mouse Club and then NSYNC, and I remember there's a lovely line in research which said at the age of 14, at the end of the Mickey Mouse Club, when it finished, you thought your career was over.
Yeah.
But I mean, quite obviously, there can't have been a time in your life when you weren't involved in music, in a sense. I mean, what's your first clear memory of music impinging on you?
Well, my father's side of my family, who my parents divorced when I was very young, but my the side of his family they've always been very musically inclined, and growing up in a state like Tennessee, that's obviously influenced by, it's the middle of America, so it's literally a melting pot of culture and music. And, you know, so my first memories of music were from gospel, but also blues, and you know, my mom was obviously a huge rock and roll fan. So my first memories of music were, you know, my parents taught me.
What about living in the Deep South? Because there's a racial problem there. There will be when you're growing up. Did it affect you very much? Did you have experience of it?
I did. It was it's still a very, Memphis particularly is a very interesting town. But growing up, I mean, it's the city where, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated, and it's kind of like this gray cloud that for a long time, I remember as a kid, for a long time kind of hovered over the city. And I think it's obviously gotten a lot better. But yeah, I experienced a lot of it.
And what about being in love with black music, as you would be at that time? You mentioned the gospel and that sort of thing. I mean, was that a dangerous thing to do in Memphis, to announce that as a fact?
For the most part, I mean, I think that it was, but for the most part, my parents were so good about just nurturing the fact that I was, at such a young age, I was so passionate about music in general. My early memories of, I remember exactly the moment when I told my mom, I was like, I want to take piano lessons, I want to take voice lessons, I know I can sing, I know that I'm sort of musically inclined, but I want to learn how to do it the right way. And I remember the moment where she said to me, if this is something you really want, then, you know, I'm your mother and I'll do what it takes to facilitate it. But you have to make sure that it's something that you really, really want.
And again, the same question that I asked you and I asked Kate. I mean, you live your life under the microscope. I mean, do you find it a problem? It's maybe less of a problem in America, isn't it? They don't have that kind of intrusion there they do here.
I don't know. I mean, I think they're getting it in as well, so to speak. I mean, I think it's become, I think with the digital era, with the birth of the internet, everything's become so accessible, and it's sort of, I was watching the taping earlier, and I can't agree more with, I mean, you're kind of going to get a one-sided point of view, but I think the points that Jude and Kate made were has so much validity. I mean, it has become this interesting obsession with living your life through a sensationalized version of someone else's life. It's weird because I feel like, you know, the publications, if that's what we want to call them, they facilitate it so much. I mean, they really create a soap opera. I mean, that's literally what they do. Yeah. They create a soap opera. It's taken the place of something like a soap opera, because now people get to look. I don't know if this is what's relative, but I feel like, maybe I'm just assuming, and maybe I shouldn't do that, but I feel like people get to watch someone that they actually know in real life, or know something about, and get to say, oh, well, they're just like me, or look at how crazy they are. But I think you know, I always make this joke that if I was half the man I was in the tabloids, I mean, I'd really be something else. Because it's really not, it's such smoke and mirrors. I mean, and you say it so many times that it becomes redundant. I've gotten to this place. I mean, I have dogs. I can't imagine what it's like to be a parent, you know, and to, seriously, I mean, I heard you say that you have trouble, like, you don't deal with it that well. I mean, I was hiking one day with my dogs, and someone was taking my picture, and I got, don't touch my dogs. You know? So I would.
But one day you'll get married, won't you?
It would be bad. If someone will have me, then yeah, maybe
I'm sure. Anyway, look, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for talking to us, and all great success with your album. I don't have to say that to you because it's a huge success wherever it is in the world. Justin Timberlake,
thank you very much.